And I'm Kirsteen Eydmann, for those who haven't met me. I'm also based in the Sydney office, but you'll probably be able to tell from my accent, I'm not from Australia. I'm the token Scottish person at Learnosity. I hope you can all understand me. There was some discussion around having some subtitles for me, but those were unavailable, so I'll do my best, but please stick up your hand if I talk too fast and get too confusing. So we'll kick off here then this afternoon. As part of this session, Michael and I would like to take you on a bit of a journey through our product strategy and our product development, so our approach to design and development. And then after that, we'll also cover some of the roadmap. Now, I know Gavin and Mark talked about some of that during the keynote, but we'll revisit some of the key deliveries from the last 12 months, and then we'll also have a look forward at what's to come over the next 12 months in 2017. So as we begin then, I thought it was worthwhile just to spend a bit of time talking around what our aims and our goals are as we constantly evolve and develop the Learnosity product. And really for us, there's three guiding principles that we follow as we grow our feature set out. The first one of these is that we want to build a product that meets real world needs and for as many of you as possible. And what we mean by that is rather than spending our time building bespoke features that only one or a couple of you will use, instead we like to build features that have the potential to bring value and impact to many of you. But of course, because we do that, we also want to make sure that our product is highly customizable. We understand you all have specific needs. You obviously want your own products to look very different from one another. So we have purposely architected our API so that you can build on top of our toolkits. That allows you, therefore, to seamlessly integrate our product into your own, but you can maintain control over the look and the feel and the behavior of the Learnosity product within your own product. And lastly, of course, we want to do the heavy technical lifting so that you don't have to. We're very aware that the part that we play for you guys is often just a component part of your overall product and platform. But because we focus on this very niche area, it firstly allows us to concentrate on that and do it pretty well. But it also frees you up so that you can focus on the many other areas and aspects of your overall product. So those principles are really where our API journey began. We followed them from the very start, and they continue to guide us as we grow out our product today. Of course, the key question is, how do we grow our product? And where do we get our ideas from? I hope it comes as comfort to you all that we're at no risk of running out of great ideas anytime soon. We certainly have lots of them. If anything, our greatest challenge is deciding which ones to build now. But I'll come on to that in a moment. But really, when it comes to our product ideas, there's two main inputs that come together there. But let's talk about the key one, and really that's all of you. The Learnosity product is what it is today because we've effectively built this together. We've worked in partnership and in collaboration, and we've all really collectively grown it into what it has become today. Because we want to build a product that meets real-world needs, of course, we have to ask you what your real-world needs are. And it's by doing that that we can get our ideas by working with you on where to go next with the product. So whether it's conversations you have with Neil and his client support team, with Michael and Dennis, even with Gavin and Mark direct, we're always listening to understand what your problems are, what your needs are, and where you're looking to take your own product next so that we can help you get there and be part of that journey. Never underestimate the part that you play in our product direction and where it heads, because around 90% of our product is built from the ideas that we have when we talk to you. So of course, if that's 90%, that leaves another 10%. And those are internal ideas that we have within Learnosity. Sometimes that's just reading between the lines from what we hear that you're asking for. We sometimes realize that actually, maybe if we build this would actually give you a more complete solution. Or it could be things that we know ourselves we want to do in terms of performance, user experience. We also make data-driven decisions, so Michael and the guys are often doing market analysis. We look at our usage analytics, understand how people are using the product as it is now, and look for opportunities to improve that user experience. So hopefully that's given you a flavour of where our ideas come in from. But of course the challenge is how we go from hundreds of great ideas to really picking out those high impact, high value ones. And really, to do that, we have a number of approaches that we can take, and we also have a number of tools that we can use at our disposal. Before I go on to talk about the tools, I think really Michael and I were chatting, the key one is sometimes we just know. We just instinctively know which features to build out. Sometimes ideas come in and it's so obvious to us that it can bring so much value to so many of you that it's almost a no-brainer. We just know that that's an idea that we have to take forward. Of course, it's not always that straightforward, and sometimes we have a bit of a debate around which ideas should be built first. And when it gets to that point, we then use a couple of tools that we have at our disposal. One of those, for example, is the value versus complexity. We will measure ideas based on what value can this bring everyone, but we'll also look at that against complexity. And that's not necessarily complexity for us, but it's complexity for all of you. If you were each to build that feature yourselves independently, how much effort would that take? You know, because we want to do the heavy lifting for you. We don't want you to have to focus your resources on those big problems and people building them out independently themselves. So those are the types of features that we like to build for you and take that off of you. Another one we also look at is the feature impact assessment. And this is really when we're trying to identify, okay, well, which ideas will be used by most people most of the time? Now, obviously, the winner there is if all of you will use a feature and you will use it all of the time. That's unlikely to happen with every feature. But really, it's about identifying those ones, again, that can have the biggest impact all of your own products. If there's one that will only be used by a couple of you, and very rarely, it tends to not get prioritized, obviously. It doesn't disappear. It'll stay on our backlog, and we'll continue to revisit that. There could be an idea now that would be low impact, but in 9 months' time, for example, it could suddenly become a very high impact feature. And at that point, we may choose to build that out. So that's just a couple of the tools that we have available to us that we use. That and really our gut, our instinct. You know, we've been in the industry for a while now, so we tend to trust our gut and we know a good idea when we see it. So once we've then decided which features we do want to take forward, that then filters into our roadmap. So we have all the ideas from all of you, our internal ideas, and they come in to shape our roadmap. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you are probably wondering, great, roadmap, 2 to 4 months. Why doesn't that say 12 to 18 months, for example? We would love to do that for you. However, we're good at a few things, but we have not yet mastered how to read the future. So we don't want to limit ourselves now to building in 18 months' time something that we think is of high value now. We understand the market changes. We understand that your needs change. So it's important to us that we maintain flexibility in our planning, that we can adapt to your changing needs. You know, we're always about delivering the value features at the earliest opportunity for you. We don't want you to have to wait 18 months while we complete the plan that we've defined now before we do our next round of planning.
Okay, so lots of good ideas coming in from you guys, coming from internally. Once we get that, how do we determine how to build something? Well, one thing we really want to do is talk to you guys. You guys are on the front line. It's your clients who are the end users, whether they're students, whether they're authors. So you're the ones who have requirements, you're hearing problems, and they're the problems we want to help to solve. So talking to clients really helps us actually gather the end requirement. After we've agreed, this is a good idea, let's do it. We also talk to our designers, our developers, our marketing folk. So different people there, not clients, sure, but they still have an input. They use the web, they do, use different applications. So they have some ideas as well that we want to take advantage of. After we talk to all sorts of different people, we try and, I suppose, synthesize all those results. Break it down into really defining what the problem is and what the value is to the end user. That's the key. If we can't determine those, then we need to keep going. There has to be an obvious problem to solve and an obvious value that we're bringing to you guys. So it's all about defining the scope. MVP a lot of the time, sometimes not, sometimes we'll know. So we'll go a little bit deeper on the first release. But often we're looking to do a minimum viable product, something that fits the base need straight away to get it out as quick as we can. So on the right here, we're just looking at a little bit of a product design life cycle that we might have. So we're doing research and requirements. We'll go into design and development. We'll test and review internally. Testing and reviewing isn't just sort of UAT. We'll test, does it do what the ticket said? Absolutely. But we go through what we call UET, user experience testing. Does it feel good? Does it make sense in the holistically, in where we put it in the product? So that's a really key piece there. After that, of course, we release. We want to release early and release often. And then we track it and we monitor it. So we say, well, are people using it? Let's look at the metrics. If we release a feature, no one's using it, well, that's maybe not a good sign. So we definitely want to do that. And then the cycle continues again. We're going round and round. So we don't often deliver a product and say, great, that's done. See you later. Every sprint, we're iterating, we're evolving. Sometimes we'll take a break for a while, wait for some more feedback, but the whole point is it's an iterative cycle. So with that in mind, sometimes you might want to build something yourselves. That might sound crazy. It's like, well, if you can do it, why would I do it? Well, it depends. What we try and do is fix problems that most people want most of the time. That's not a golden rule, but it's a general rule. So the point we've been hammering all day in each of the sessions is the APIs are extensible. We want you to build on top of them. We want you to take them and be creative and put your mark on them, put your stamp on them to make them valuable to what you want them to do. So they are flexible, and this is about preserving sometimes your intellectual property or your unique selling proposition. If we go and build a very specific thing for you, then everybody else can get it, can use it as well. That's often a good thing, but if it's very, very specific, that's why sometimes we suggest, why don't you guys build it and we'll show you how.
Okay, so hopefully that's given you a better insight into the why behind what we build and of course how we then build it. But what does that look like at the end of the year and what goes on to our roadmap? How much do we get delivered? Now, at this point, I was going to give you a nice statistic, but Gavin, who I don't think's here, was a little bit naughty and took, shall we say, inspiration from our our presentation and threw it in the keynote earlier. But let's see who was paying attention, I guess. I know we've still got a few of the prizes lying around, so probably this is your last chance to get your hands on some. But can anyone remember how many feature and product enhancements the last year? Spot on. Prize for this gentleman. If you want to wait around at the end, we'll get a good prize over to you. But yes, exactly. It was 450 in the last 12 months, and obviously over the next 12 months, we hope to increase that and year on year. But let's take a little bit of a review then over some of the key features we delivered. And again, some of these were maybe covered during the keynote, but it's probably worth us just reminding ourselves. As Gavin mentioned, we introduced 6 new question types over the last year. The first one of these is our hotspot question type. Some of you are probably familiar with already. So this allows your authors to upload an image and outline target regions or hotspots within that image for validation. So as part of the student's response, they will select a particular region on that image. Our fill shape we introduced to allow you to assess students against their knowledge on degrees and percentages and fractions. Our long text V2 was quite an interesting one. We had many requests from a lot of you to allow your students to have access to more formatting options. So we introduced a user-facing rich text editor within our rich essay question type. So there's far more formatting options available to your students now, whether it's indentation, alignment, tables. And usefully, your authors can actually configure which options they want to be available to the student and in which order that they appear. Our student file upload one was an interesting new question type. This one's quite good for performance type tasks, so it could be art task, group task, field work, etc., where it makes more sense for your students to upload a file as part of their response. So as part of this, again, your authors can define which file types are accepted and the maximum number of files that a student can upload in their response. Our image annotation, again, an image can be uploaded either by the author or the student themselves, and the student can then add labels to that image, which they can drag around the image and then annotate what that particular section of the image relates to. And the last one is our gridded question type. It sort of does what it says on the tin. This was brought in for the Texas curriculum. Students are able to select their response by selecting from values within a gridded area. So that one's really useful for anyone looking to serve up assessments within Texas State. For the assessment player,
We have done a huge amount on accessibility. Not only the player, but the questions API internally. For those who saw the accessibility talk, I hope you, if you didn't, you have a new appreciation for actually how hard it is. For simple things like color and contrast and screen readers, but math as well. It's a very hard domain, so we've done a huge amount of work there, particularly focusing on requirements for Section 508 and WCAG AA and AAA. Item branching, so we have an adaptive engine for those that don't know. That one's quite advanced, and you generally need psychometricians on staff to calibrate your item bank, etc., to be able to take advantage of that. This new one is a little bit simpler, where you can predefine pathways. Within those pathways, you can put rules as well. You can say, well, if the student had got more than 50% right for this set of items, I'm going to take them down this pathway. If they got less, I'm going to take them down a different pathway. So that's pretty exciting. That's reasonably new, a couple of sprints old at the most. So really interested to see, again, with our tracking and our metrics, who's using that. So reach out if you are interested and you want to get cracking. Responsiveness, so more and more on responsive design. And cell phone, sure, tablet, sure, but it's often about the screen container width of the container that wraps our API. That's what we're talking about. So it could be desktops as well. We never know where we're going to be loaded in. So we're doing more work to make sure that we are responsive. If you've got 2 column items or a table of contents perhaps in the player, we try and push those out of the way and do things like that just to be more responsive. Performance as well, not all question types are created equal. Multiple choice is very light. Something like math is a lot heavier with the math engine driving it under the hood. So we're doing a lot more in performance there, knowing that you might have students using older devices, older tablets, or you might be loading just a lot of questions on one browser page. So we're doing more to make things more performant. In the player specifically, we spoke about regions before. Regions have been around a little bit, but we've done some more to tidy up the configuration options. So again, the regions in the player mean that you can position the elements, a pause button and next button, etc., in different areas. That's the way forward, and we've done some more work just to make that a little bit stronger. Dynamic content has been out for a little while. This is where you might author one item, give that item a CSV, might have 100 rows in that CSV, and that means that item then has 100 different variants of a question within there, using the data that's in the CSV. So you can use it often for math style, maybe addition or subtraction or what have you. So driving multiple items on multiple questions on a single item based on CSV content. Workflow as well. Some people use workflow a lot. We've seen it heavily with younger grades. Maybe an item, they progress to an item, we disable navigation, we autoplay an audio file. Once it's finished, we re-enable the navigation. That was only ever available with our standalone or legacy features. That's now available with our simple features that you can author in any rich text editor with our rich text area with our new editor. So that's a good little enhancement for those interested in that one. In terms of more miscellaneous things, learning management systems, hopefully we've really lowered the bar there. We now have an LTI service that you can load inside, we hope, any learning management system. Obviously, students can take assessments, but instructors can also set those up, and soon we've got an activity builder coming out next week that will be able to embed that within the LTI as well, so your instructors can create assignments, give them to students, and then the students can see reports after the fact. And offline, our first foray into offline was an iOS wrapper and a Chromebook application. They were just using the items in line. We've now added player support. So the items using the Assess API or our assessment player, that is now compatible as well in our offline offering.
We've also made some great enhancements over the last year to our authoring experience, and in particular within our author API, as we've continued to grow that out. One of these is our simple authoring. We're in the early stages of that journey, but we understand that not all of your content creators are professional authors. They could, for example, be classroom-based teachers that just want to author some content for the students in their class. And while our existing authoring tool is extremely powerful, it could be quite overwhelming for someone who's new to authoring or unfamiliar with doing so. So instead, we've introduced the concept of simple authoring, where there's some simple templates available for those types of authors. You'll see there we've really stripped back the number of configuration options available. It's much cleaner, it's much simpler, and a far more straightforward authoring journey for some of your newer authors. Similarly, our activity builder, we've mentioned that a few times throughout the day. That's now going to be available through the author API as well. So that will allow your authors to quickly and easily create activities for students, selecting from some pre-existing items within your item bank. Overall, we've got some changes in the author API to make it safer and simpler generally. Our tag browsing is a really interesting one. That allows your authors to quickly locate specific items within your item bank. So using your organization's tag hierarchies, they can drill down and filter for particular items, for example, relating to a particular standard. So that really makes it far quicker for your authors to drill down through. If you have a very large item bank, for example, pull out the items that they specifically want. Again, we've got shared passages, making it far quicker authoring journey. You may have a number of items that all hang off a similar passage, so rather than your authors having to create that every time, they can now create a shared passage and have multiple items using that. And lastly, our duplicate item is now also available in the author API. Again, much quicker. You may have an author who's looking to create a new item, but they know that a pre-existing item already contains 90% of what they want. They may just want to update the stem, for example. So rather than have to create everything from scratch again, they can just duplicate that initial item and make changes to the new duplicated version. It really helps protect the integrity of your existing content within your item bank, because it far reduces the chance of corruption from an author accidentally making changes to an existing item that you want to retain.
So looking at some of the reporting things that we have delivered, I'm not sure who was in the talk we did a little while ago on reporting and analytics. So we have an aggregate report that's been released. Contextually, you could use this for any groupings that are meaningful to you. So a district report is something I think most people can relate to, where a district administrator might want to compare results of a larger cohort of students across districts, drill down into schools, into classes, go to the student level. So that's available now through the data and the reports APIs. Off that one, you could use multiple data sets from that report and start to do longitudinal reporting. The live status report, that one we've added the ability for the proctor to navigate on behalf of the student. So proctor-led tests. Student has no navigation at all, but the proctor can control that. So useful for more younger grades as well. A smaller piece, but actually a lot of people have expressed a lot of interest for it, and it's bulk asset uploading through the data API. Good for maybe if you're importing a bunch of content, or if you want to embed some sort of your own digital asset management locally, you can now upload assets via our data API straight to our content delivery network. So let's have a look ahead. What are we going to focus on the next 6 to 12 months, or maybe 2 to 4 months? New question types. So Venn diagram is a new question type we're looking at. A lot of interest in that one. A rubric question type or interaction type. So we have an existing type that it's almost the de facto for us, the rating question type. You could actually use anything as a rubric, but it doesn't feel fit for purpose for us. So we're going to look at designing a dedicated rubric type that your graders can use when they're doing manual scoring against maybe constructed response. Responsive design, we have done some work on that. We're going to continue that. One of the things we're looking at right now is the ability to align the stimulus to the left of a question. So right now they're vertically stacked. Tick an option and it goes to the left. But when you get to a narrow width, it'll go back to vertical. So it would work on a larger device or a smaller width device as well. Performance, again, always continuing on performance. We need to make sure that our question types are actually going to work on older devices, or as devices get older, as we release new question types. So performance is always something that we're interested in. Offline assessments, I mentioned before, we have an iOS wrapper, we have a Chromebook proof of concept. Android is the next one coming quite soon, and we're keeping an eye on the service workers standard, I suppose. And once that becomes available, we'll be on that, and that will lower the bar again for offline assessments. Functionality partners, that's sort of been discussed a little bit today. Again, recognizing that there are some companies that they're doing some really great things, really interesting things, and we don't really want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to go and have to build that again. So we're talking to them, partnering up with them, and making it easier for you guys to embed their tools in our APIs. So we've got Desmos with the graphing calculator. We've got some content bank providers. We've got other tools to do paper-based scoring or help us with that. There are some of the things that we're looking at with functionality partners, and that's a new focus. There's going to be a lot more coming in the next few months. SCORM, quick quiz. Who knows about SCORM, or who's still using SCORM today? Put your hand down. Wow, a couple. 3. That's 3 more than I thought I'd get. Well, good. That's good validation. So SCORM, we're looking at that again. So that'll be interesting to see where we can come in the next few months to have support for that. The activity builder, we said first release hopefully next week, and we'll continue to evolve and iterate that as the year goes by. Basically getting feature parity with what we already have in the author's site, but allowing you to embed that on your side. Put it in front of professional authors, put it in front of teachers. So again, lowering the bar for more activity or assessment creation. A tag browsing interface. So we have the browsing interface, I suppose, on the author API. But what we want to do is allow you to add tags to items using a user interface. Right now, we just have public method support for that. So this is the next feature we're working on for authoring, apart from the activity builder. So look for that soon. Simple authoring, again, continuing that. We have a suite of layouts and templates that we are opinionatedly saying are simple, and we'll be adding a flag to allow you to opt in to simple or complex or professional layouts, I suppose. So just really simply to just flick between them for a teacher or maybe for a professional author. Of course, you can customize those if you want something different, but we just want to lower the bar for the most common use cases. And also within authoring, we're looking at a greater level of access control. So recognizing that you might put this tool in front of users who shouldn't have full access. How can we lock things down? How can we restrict access? Maybe via tags, maybe via different user IDs, those sorts of measures. So again, allowing you to put your workflow or your access control rules on top of our API as you load it on your side. Paper-based assessments, as I mentioned before with the functionality partners. So we're looking and we're recognizing that sometimes students need to do a test offline or on paper. It could be special needs, it could be just a lack of computer equipment. So we're looking at how we could do this. Assuming maybe there's already a digital equivalent, you could print it, put it in front of the students, scan it via probably a functionality partner, get it back into the system so you can do normal reporting along with everybody else who may have taken that online. The aggregate reports, will be extending that to include reports by tagging. So there's a few people there who are interested in that one. The item analysis we were talking about, so we want to do more a static analysis on your banks, breaking down what you've got, how it's being used, but also item score analysis, looking at the p-value, the point by serial, the item validity. So those are sorts of the things that are coming towards the end of the year. Audit trail improvements, we have an audit trail, but we don't expose that through the author API or the data API. So we'll be doing that so you can more flexibly control who has modified your data, giving you access to those.
So that's it for our session at the moment. We hope you've found that quite interesting, understanding how we approach our product strategy, and hopefully you're excited by some of the things you are hearing or to come over the next 12 months. But I think probably for both of us, if there's one thing we'd like you to take away from this particular session, it really is a piece around collaboration. You know, we don't want to build a product for you, we want to build a product with you. So we want to hear what your needs are, what problems that you're trying to solve, and just keep collaborating together to grow this product further. So please continue to reach out via any channel, talk to any of us. You can grab us after this session or even later on for those that are joining us for a drink, or by email at any time.